Hi guys. Thank you all for being so patient. We had miscommunication, technical difficulties, all the things that you can imagine that happens. It's been a long time, so I'm so excited for this episode. I haven't done one. If you've been following me, I haven't done one in months. With everything that happens in life. So this is a very special episode 142. So that right there is huge, 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 huge for us. And it is not just any typical episode. I actually met this beautiful woman months ago. She did a meet and greet and told her story, and I was just like obsessed. And she's just very inspiring. So I can't wait for us to bring her on in. We're not going to be able to cover everything in this episode because I tell you, her book. Okay, we'll talk about this. There's no way we can do this in 30 minutes. You're going to have to go get her book so you can continue to read every single detail about her life and just be in awe and then just get in touch with her and learn from her and all of these things. So let's do this. Let's begin. Thank you so much. And all right. Hi.
Hello, hello. How are you, Annette?
Good. Thank you so much. We've been trying to do this for months, but life just happens. And so I'm really excited to have you on here. I was just telling people that I had met you at a meet and greet you did out here. I brought two friends, and we were just like in awe of you as a person, and then your story, and of course your book. I couldn't even put it down. I was like, oh my God, because I know you can't cover everything in just an hour, not even 30 minutes. Like this is a continuous journey that you have been on. So Miss Contreras, I don't even, I have no words. I just think that, and I know you've probably heard this before and I sound like such a fangirl, but for real, you are such an inspiration to those who feel like they can't continue to move on.
Well,
And
thank you, Annette. Thank you, Annette. It's so important for us to tell our stories. There are many people out there that have stories to tell, and I'm thrilled that I connected with you. Thank you for your service
thank you.
to this great country, and I look forward to the podcast.
I love it. I thank you so much just for being here, even after everything you've gone through. I don't even know where to start, but I do. I want to go back to how you were brought up, your life, people, so people can know how you started and then how you got to where you are, because we all have some kind of I don't want to say we all have some kind of trauma. We all have kind of a mess in our life that we do not like to talk about, especially I think as Latinas, as raised me Catholic, Hispanic, Peruvian, all these things. We did not talk about our life outside the house. There was no way. So can you just share with us how your upbringing a little bit, and anything you're comfortable with, of course, so that we can show our guests that your past does not have to define you.
Yeah, so my story is so voluminous. It's so many facets of my life. I've gone through a reinvention of Rebecca 4 times. And the good news is, Annette, life goes on, and crap happens in life, and how you navigate it and deal with it is so important to you determining how you live your best life. For me, I'm a border town gal. I grew up in El Paso. We grew up in abject poverty. My mother was a product of the welfare system her whole life. So there are 4 of us kids, and I'm a Latina, and my dad was from Yugoslavia. He was actually the owner of a nightclub my mom was a dancer at. Didn't know him. He was a one night stand. My baby sister's dad was African American, and my brother's dad was black. Was Mexican. So we used to joke with my mom, you just need Asian to complete the circle of diversity. But, none of us knew our fathers. Mom was just sick. She had a lot of issues. She had drug addiction. LSD and heroin were her drugs of choice. She had issues with alcoholism and mental illness and just trauma. And it really plagued our entire childhood. And we grew up, pretty much by ourselves. My grandmother, bless her heart, she did what she could to care for us. When I was 5, she told us she was going to the grocery store and never came back and abandoned us. My sister was 6 months old when that happened. And we should have been a product of the foster care system if it hadn't been for that abuelita, that grandmother that really took us in and did what she could to, all of a sudden she had 4 kids full time, and the baby was 6 months old, and she had to be mom to us. And she struggled. My grandmother didn't have as much as even a 6th grade education. She also worked really hard her whole life. She was a cook at the bus stop in El Paso by Juarez, and did what she could to provide for us. But we didn't know where my mom was. And so for 2 years, she lived on the streets and in her addiction and prostitution and all sorts of issues. And long story short, she ends up coming back and, tears us away from my grandmother and moves us to Austin. I was 12 when I started living with my mother, and it was very difficult because I didn't know her. And, there were a lot of issues with us, and she was trying to be mom, and she had cleaned up her act in terms of her addiction, but she never dealt with her mental trauma and all of the abuse that she sustained. So, abuse people, trauma breeds trauma. And I talked a little bit about this when you and I met in my session. And it's so important for people to understand that even though you have a horrible upbringing and you have tragedy or trauma that happens in your life, at some point you will become an adult yourself, and you've got to make decisions for yourself. And so I spun out of control. My poor mother tried very hard to help me. I tell the full story in Lost Girl. She tried to get me to stop using drugs and stop drinking alcohol and sneaking out of the house and all the stuff that I did as a wayward teen. The whole story, the first 3 chapters of Lost Girl are dedicated to my upbringing. And at age 17 ended up pregnant and dropped out of school, and just started down a down spiral path as a single mom on welfare, and on a path to become that Latina statistic, of dropout pregnant. And we have the highest pregnancy rate in America, which is really, really tragic. But, my mother took that little girl away from me so I wouldn't mishandle her, and raised her for the first year. And I ended up moving out. And, at age 19, after I hit rock bottom, sometimes we have to hit rock bottom before we recognize it. I decided to go back to school and give my heart to God and try to do something for this mess of a life that I had created. Here I was 19 years old. My daughter was almost a year and didn't know me. And anyway, met my husband in a little bitty church in East Austin that I started attending that was doing a lot of gang outreach. And I tell the whole story in the book, but went back to school, got my GED, and I actually entered a welfare to work program and landed a job by one of the most powerful women in Texas at the time, Ann Richards. And, when I first saw Annette, and she was the first woman in power that I had ever seen, the first woman boss that I had ever seen. And I became her receptionist and started my government career journey. And the rest is history. I went back to school and got some good mentors around my life and good training, and started looking up to women that cared about me, that could help me, and men that could help me, and started dealing with my own trauma and my own mess, and getting help psychologically, and, cleaning my act up. And I ended up getting my daughter back. My mom gave her back to me. I got married to my husband now of 32 years, and climbed my way all the way up. My last boss was George W. Bush. I was asked to join him when he got elected president. And, here I was in the White House as a Latina, no formal education, pinching myself, wondering, wow, if anybody had ever told me at age 17, when I was strung out on drugs and a dropout and in abject poverty, one day you're going to be advising the leader of the free world, I probably would have said them a few curse words and other words. But I'm now an entrepreneur, and I run a consulting practice of about 100 people across 7 states. And I'm just so blessed to be living my best life despite all the issues of my past.
I freaking love it. And I know there were certain times, there was parts in your book where you talked about God, how you were angry at him and you just couldn't understand, like, why would your mom leave and all these things. So how did you get back into God is good? Because there's a lot of people in life who, when bad things happen, of course, because that was me, I was so mad, like, why me?
Yeah.
If there's a God, he wouldn't have let this happen. And so there's several circumstances in our life where we do that. We look to him and say, why did you let this happen? How did you get back into having that faith again?
You know, James Dobson wrote a book many years ago called When God Doesn't Make Sense. And in the entire book, he talks about issues that happen in life and, pain and tragedy and trauma that, God's heart was never for me to get sexually abused at 13 by a man that was 10 years my elder. God's heart was not for me to be abandoned. None of that is, but life happens. I actually, when I went back to church at age 19, I really had an encounter with God, and I was under the ministry of a man that was teaching different. And when I first heard God is love, and God actually, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. I actually found out that God actually knew who I was and that he had a plan for me. And I just started down my journey of healing. President Bush used to say, government can lend a hand, but only God can change a heart. And that is so true. God had to change my heart. My mom and I started down the journey of healing together. And I found out, and I forgave her. And I found out she really did not mean to hurt me. Like, she was an addict and she had mental illness. And I learned to just love her where she was, in the middle of her pain. And she was doing her best later in life to be mom. And, it's just forgiveness. It's embracing forgiveness. It's embracing life to say, life happens. And when life happens to you, there are really two things you can do. You can become embittered and live in pain and trauma your whole life, or you can forgive and release and let go and renew yourself in terms of new thinking, a new strategy, going back to school and getting mentors around my life. So for me, it's been a process and a life journey. I do actually talk in Lost Girl and give some great tips on life transformative tips that worked in my life to change. A lot of it is getting rid of toxic thinking and changing your thought process that then translates into change of behavior. But forgiveness, Annette, for me was a huge catalyst for change.
That's hard too. And you mentioned these things you wrote in the book. I could have highlighted like the whole book. I was like, ooh, this one and these quotes and the Bible verses and all these things that you put in here. I was like, God, this is just, we need this, because there are so many things we've gone through in life and we don't know how to let it go. And forgiveness is hard. It's hard. And to believe again that we were, all these things happen for us, not to us. And it's hard to even think like that when the worst things have happened and you've been through a lot of shit.
Excuse me. No, let me tell you, I always tell people, when the shit hits the fan, there's nothing you can do but just flail, you know? And so, after you're finished flailing, then you got to recalibrate yourself and stop. For me, it's been about my prayer life, my embracing of transformation and getting in the seat of being the driver of my future. There's a whole chapter in Lost Girl that I dedicate to drive your own future. Like, you are the only one. Now, when I was 10, 11, and 12, and 13, and 14, I couldn't impact all the nonsense around me. But when I turned 18 and 19 and 20, guess what? I'm going to get in the driver's seat of my own future. And, especially now, Annette, there's so much trauma happening in America. People have been through a lot of stuff the last 2.5 years with COVID and all the stuff going on with the economy and just tragedies. I have friends of mine that have lost loved ones tragically overnight. Literally, they weren't sick one day, the next day they're gone. Yep. And we certainly want to grieve. I'm in the middle of a series right now on my website that I'm teaching on pain on purpose. Yeah. On purpose means it has a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And we all go through pain. It's how we navigate that pain and how we embrace the change that has to happen through it. And for me, my life early on did not make sense. I've had people say, would you go back and change all of that? I don't know that I would want to change the way things happen to me. Maybe I would change staying in school and getting, a formal education. But I am who I am today because of all of the trials and the things that I lived through. And it's made me a better human. It's made me a better wife, a better mom, a better grandmother. It's made me a better CEO. And so I encourage your listeners to really embrace the transformation for themselves and really own that change in the midst of trials, and really reframe your thought process on how to deal with it.
I appreciate you saying that so much. It brought me back to when I did a speaking engagement, somebody asked me if I if what when I was sexually abused as a child, did I still believe in God? That did I really believe that He put me in that situation for a certain reason? And I had to stop and think and say, you know what? Although that's a horrible thing that happened to me, would I change it? Probably not, because now I am the person I am, like you stated. Now I can help others, and I can help, watch out for my children and all these things. So it took me many years to heal from that. But yeah, so I wouldn't change it because I'm still here today. And God just, we don't know why He lets things happen, but there's pain on purpose. Your message, all these things that are making us who we are now. And it's incredible because it takes a lot to have that way of thinking, right? To change our mindset, to make our tragedies into positive things. It's hard to comprehend, but I think now that I'm older, I see it.
Yeah. And you know what, Annette, too? The resilience and the resolve that I have built in my character through it has been tremendous. I have, I now manage just an incredible team spread across 7 states. I've built the company from the ground up. We're about 100 and so consultants. And, one of the things I hear over and over again from the people that I personally have mentored and taken on is, there are 2 things that happen when Rebecca hits a wall, right? Either you tear that wall down or find a way around that wall. But that resilience and that resolve to stay the course, I learned this from President Bush. He had such a resolve in his tenacity to stay the course despite public opinion. You've got to have that resolve. And the only thing that builds that inside you is trials and darkness and issues, and having to navigate those things make you stronger. So for me, it's about really taking the bull by the horns, and certainly don't run into conflict because you want to, right? But when it does come your way, figure out a way to navigate through it in a way that's going to make you stronger, because that strength is going to serve you in the end.
Absolutely. One of the things I did want to bring up was the beautiful foreword that your husband read. Or not read, he wrote. Gosh, knowing you since you were 19 and watching you evolve as a person, even through all your triumphs, all these obstacles, that not many people can stick by someone's side when they're going through all that. So I just had to say that it's just such a beautiful testimony. I just, gosh, and for you guys to be married for over 32 years.
32 years. Yeah. And listen, Annette, it has been tough.
Yeah.
We were both so dysfunctional growing up. He came out of a single parent home. His dad died when he was 5. He was a coke addict for 10 years. When we came together, he's 10 years older than me. It was explosive. We were dysfunctional. We, again, hurt people. But one thing we had in common was God and our resolve to stay together. And we knew God had brought us together. We had that little girl, that 3-year-old little girl that my daughter was 3, that he ended up taking on as his own daughter. And I tell the whole story in the book. Your readers need to read it. It's really an incredible story of how he just took us in. And David had, anger and explosive, issues with his past. I had emotional trauma. Bringing those 2 people together, it hasn't been an easy journey, but I can tell you, even today, 32 years later, we still have to go at it and work at it. And, we're going through another level in our marriage where we went back to therapy to learn how to communicate, because we're so busy and we're constantly talking at each other and not listening. And so we're learning how to listen better. You never arrive in your marriage. You never arrive in your family. It's always a process of learning and embracing change and just walking in humility to learn. You don't know it all. For us together, we've made a stake in the ground commitment that we have a purpose together, and we have our beautiful children and our grandchildren, and we love God and we love each other, and we're working towards making everything better. And we have found relationships are tough. I would encourage your listeners, stay the course in your relationships and work it out, because we serve a big God that actually works in healing, and His purpose for you is always good, even in taking bad and turning it into good.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a lot of the behind the scenes that people don't see, and we're too ashamed to talk about it, especially on social media. Social media is good and bad. And so we don't like to put our business out there, but that is true life behind the scenes on how difficult it is. I've been married 24 years, but man, it's yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard work. It's not like, yeah, we've been married 24 years. No, we've been married 24 years. And
Yeah.
this is how life is. But I appreciate your vulnerability, or no, your just openness to just
Yeah.
share everything. And like you said, this book, I mean, it tells it all. And so you need to go and read all the details, all the behind the scenes of your life, of
Yeah.
how you
And then I have to just share with your
yeah.
listeners, President Bush. I somehow you got a copy of the book. I didn't. I don't have access to him, so I certainly didn't give it to him. But somebody that knew I did the book sent it to him, and I got a personal handwritten note from him in the mail about 2 months ago, and he just went on to say, "I read Lost Girl. I was literally blown away by the trauma you've sustained," and just went on to say how proud he was of me that I overcame, and that that he was proud to have served with me. And I thought to myself, I'm proud to have served you, like
Right.
you're the president. But it was really interesting to get his perspective of how the book impacted him. And it's Rebecca in the raw. Listen, I put myself out there in a big way. I am a public figure. I have a platform, and I had friends say, "You sure you're going to put that in there?" Yeah, I kind of want to, because guess what? Everybody needs to know that transparency and authenticity is so important to healing. And everybody, you see certain people sometimes and you think they don't have issues, and it's hard for you to relate to them. Well, guess what? When people read my story, even though I have a platform and I'm very successful, they're going to be able to relate to pretty much everything in there.
Absolutely.
And so I think the authenticity, Americans are ready for authentic leadership. And that authenticity is what I was going for. So I'm glad that you feel it was that, that pointful.
Now, absolutely. And you're so right. We see so many public figures trying to put up the front because it's hard for them to put out there that they're going through a lot of shit. And so we just need to start from somewhere. So we need to just lead from the front and go, okay, here it is. This is, I mean, yes, I'm successful. Yes, I'm happy, but oh my God, it took all this stuff. And now I want to share it with you so that you can know that you can overcome it. Yes. It's so difficult because I've run into a lot of people who don't want to go to therapy. They don't want to see, a psychiatrist or whatever the case is, because they don't feel like they can relate. So they need people like us who are like, no, yes, you can make it. And because I've been through it too.
Yeah. So Annette, I recently was doing a stat. I did another podcast on mental illness, and because my mom was mentally ill. My twin brother right now is struggling with mental illness, and we have a lot of mental illness in our family. But do you know that only 9% of Americans seek help and therapy for any kind of trauma?
Oh my God.
Imagine, Annette, the marriages that could be saved, the families that could be restored if we all went to therapy and swallowed our pride to say, hey, I need help, and I want to help. I want to get help. And so when I read that stat, it blew me back, because I thought, gosh, I love therapy. Any chance I get, I have at least a once a month session today. I have a coach and I have a therapist, and it doesn't mean you're ever going to not need it. I mean, you want it. I want it because I want to be better. There are things at 53 today that I have to learn to do different. And sometimes it takes that third party to call you out on it and say, hey, that way of thinking is not healthy. Like, you need to rethink that. And it's okay to embrace that change for yourself and work on yourself to be a better human, a better woman, a better man, a better wife, a better mom. It's important.
That is so true. I am so glad you said that. We need to get rid of that stigma of I'm seeing somebody, I'm seeing a mental therapist, a health therapist. It doesn't, there's nothing wrong with it. And that 9%, that breaks my heart. That is so sad.
Yeah.
That is so sad because people are too afraid of being judged.
Yeah.
But everybody uses them. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to be better and you need someone else to kind of just put your ass in gear, then do it.
Yeah.
you
And,
know?
I was 2 weeks ago, we were with my husband and I were talking to our therapist, and, she was saying, you guys have such a close relationship. I love how you both come together and you both dialogue together and you listen to each other. In my session, I said, well, we do it in your session really good. We're trying to learn to do it at home really good.
Right.
But how else are we going to learn those techniques except from somebody who knows how to communicate better, right? And
Yes.
communication is so important to success in every area, in every sphere, whether it's business or community or church or family. And so, I would encourage your listeners, if they're struggling with an issue in their life, talk to someone about it, even if it's a trusted friend. If you can't afford the therapy or your insurance doesn't cover it, a trusted friend, and get it off your chest. And most importantly, talk to God about it, right? Because he promises to be with us and listens to us, and he's an open ear for us.
No, and you're absolutely right. I have my circle. I don't need 100 friends anymore. I think maybe it's my age. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't need all the, your trusted friends. But yes, and I think it's okay to say that it's never too late to get back into your faith. I lost my way many times over the years, but now I'm finally at peace, and I'm comfortable enough to actually talk about my struggles, because I think we spend so many years trying to hide from that. And I think just because of the way we were raised, not talking about it, not really understanding what mental illness was. But it's okay now. If you want to start again, you want to start over, it's not too late, because he's always going to be there. And we're always going to be there to bring you back in. So
Yeah. Yeah, I want to give your listeners a
yes,
tool.
yes.
So I'm a big fan of Dr. Caroline Leaf. Dr. Leaf is a renowned neuroscientist, and she studies the brain and how it impacts behavior. And she has two books out, one called Think, Learn, Succeed. And she trains you with tools on how to reshape your brain to then succeed in every area of your life. But then her new one is called How to Deal with Your Mental Mess.
Oh.
And this is from a scientist. Her techniques are life-changing. I have applied several of her techniques to my own life. When I get super stressed out with work, with my business, we're growing really fast, so things happen and chaos happens. I have applied her meditation techniques. She has a technique on 7 minutes of silence, literally getting, when your brain is about to explode, sitting in 7 minutes of silence and emptying out your brain and learning how to train your brain. Because she actually links bad behavior, and she links things like mental trauma, drug addiction, health issues. She links it to toxicity in the brain that starts in the brain through negative toxic thoughts and then produces health issues in your body. And so she's renowned. Dr. Caroline Leaf, I would encourage your listeners to research. She's got a ton of podcasts out there. I love her because she's a Christian, and she teaches from a biblical perspective, but she's also a neuroscientist, and she's really helped me a lot in my tools.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Anna. Yes, right. We need that. The book recommendations. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so I want to know, what do you do to get yourself centered again when you feel like you're about to lose your mind?
Well, so I'm on a journey now. I've had about 2.5 months of intensity, and things happen in my own personal life that I'm navigating through. And it's why I launched the Pain on Purpose series, where I'm teaching what I've been doing to center myself on things I can't control. My daily routine consists of, first of all, starting my day in prayer and meditation. I actually sit on the couch for 45 minutes. You don't have to do it for 45 minutes. You can do it for 10 minutes. But for me, I have to have those 30 to 45 minutes. And I completely start with a blank slate early in the morning, and just prayer and meditate and reading encouraging things, listening to encouraging words. And then I walk the house. I like to walk the house. We're empty nesters now. So I like to walk the house and declare positive words. I tell myself that I'm going to have a great day today. I declare that things are going to work out to my favor. I speak the negative things that are in play into positive things. There's a lot of power behind speaking your words. There's a lot of science behind also speaking your words and what happens around you in the atmosphere. I work out. If I am super stressed out, I work out every day. 5 days a week is usually my workout. But if I'm super stressed out one day and I can't go work out, I'll walk my ravine across the street. I get out in nature. There are certain things that you have to do. I don't, if I'm going through a traumatic situation, whether it's personally or in my family, I make sure that I don't stay alone. I talk to my coach about it. I talk to a trusted friend. I bounce ideas off them and say, hey, here's what I'm feeling right now. Am I rational or am I being irrational? And talking to my trusted friend and coach, she'll tell me you're being completely irrational. That's not normal. Get out of your head and, don't feel that because that's not real. That's negative. And, it helps me to do those things. And my faith has played a central role in my transformation, Annette. I could not do this journey without God. My book is not a faith-based book, but I talk in there about the power that God has played in my own life and transformation. I love to listen to podcasts. My favorite go-to podcasts are Joel Osteen and Dr. Caroline Leaf. Of course, Joel Osteen is America's pastor, and Dr. Leaf is that neuroscientist. She's got tremendous podcasts out there. I put my earplugs in and listen to podcasts. If I am dealing with a very painful, stressful thing in my business, I step away from it and calm down before I deal with it, because I know that if I deal with it in anger, I'm going to mismanage it. Yeah. So I'm learning techniques here at 53 that are so important to my success and my thriving in life.
Do you find it difficult to ask for help if you're just too overwhelmed and stressed out?
So I am a perfectionist in a lot of ways, and I am also a type A driver. So I like to lead and drive and thrive. I am learning that I can't do it all. I've got a great management team that I'm even working to delegate more to them. They're very capable. They're very smart. They're type A's as well, and they want to take it on. And Annette, I'm very proud of myself. So I've owned this business for 11 years and I have never taken more than 7 days off. Next month in August, I am taking 3 weeks.
What?
So I'm going to Europe with my husband, and there's a bet going among my team that I'm not going to be able to log off for 3 weeks. And I'm like, watch me do it. It's going to be difficult. I'm a business owner. I have a lot going on. This is a busy season, but I'm going to force myself to unplug for 3 weeks. And you know what? I'm getting to that point in my business where we're just growing so fast and we have so much going on that if stuff happens and people do it wrong, it's okay. It's okay. Mm-hmm. If people make mistakes, it's okay. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to fix everything. We don't have to, direct everything. Let people fail forward. Let them make mistakes, because that's how I did. I make a lot of mistakes. And guess what? I learned through my mistakes. Yeah. And as a business owner and entrepreneur, I think as small business owners, if any small business owners are listening, we tend to want to do everything. But when we do everything, we just burn out. And we don't empower others to learn how to grow and thrive themselves through their mistakes. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect.
You're absolutely right. And I think we are still learning how to do that. It's so hard. I always feel like I got to do it myself. I don't want to give it to someone else, but you're right. Burnout will come and it can take over real fast.
I do have to share one personal thing with your listeners, because my husband would laugh at this. So my whole marriage, I have been the cook and the grocery shopper in the family. David's the cleaner, and I'm a chef, and I actually have my own cooking show on Facebook every month or two.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I call it RC's Cocina. But for the first time in our marriage, the last month, he is cooking one meal a week. He cooks breakfast once a week, and he's doing all the grocery shopping. And before, he would offer to do the groceries, and I'd say, no, because you don't know what to get. You don't know how to pick the fruit. You don't know how to pick the vegetables. I want to do it. And you know what? It's okay. I've let him. And, if he doesn't get the right brand or the right thing, who cares? I'll say, next time, get this. But he is so happy. He told me last night, babe, I'm really loving grocery shopping now. And I'm like, yes, I don't have to do groceries anymore. But, especially, as women that like to drive, we don't have to have everything perfect. We need to let others, do what they do. And I'm certainly learning how to let go. I'm very busy. I'm juggling the business and the marriage and the grandkids and the children and the nonprofit. As you know, I have a nonprofit, and the book now launch and the tour. And it's like, I can't do it all. And so letting go and let others help you is so important.
It is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you for sharing that too, because it's very difficult. I don't even know how you juggle it all. But I'm so happy that you're taking 3 weeks off. That's huge.
Yes.
So huge. What what advice would you give to those, cuz you started your business from nothing. You didn't have a lot of money, but you went after it. So what advice can you give to other people who are thinking about that entrepreneur life but have nothing?
Well, listen, I was an employee, a W-2 employee my whole career. And when I left my government career, I was a government employee with a set salary. And as you know, government work, once you're a government worker, it's lifelong employment, right? There's no chance of getting fired ever, because the government workers never get fired. And so I had security, job security. But then I left to work for another firm and started their federal practice also as a W-2 employee, and was making more than the CEO because of all the business I was bringing in. And I walked away from a huge salary to zero. I just really felt strongly that I could be an entrepreneur myself. After talking to my mentors and people around me and telling them what I had done for this other company, they said, you could do that for yourself. Like, you're bringing in their business, but you could bring in your own business and own it. And my partner, who's in DC, he owns a minority share of the company. I approached my partner, and you got to have the right partner. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about starting a business. If I started, would you help? If you helped, I would give you, X percentage ownership. And I got a good partner, and, he's got an IT background. I have an HR background, and he's developed a lot of our web-based systems. And, having a good partner, first of all, having a good plan, having a good partner. Don't ever go it alone. It's good to have a good partner. Make sure you have the right partner. Don't go into partnership with the wrong people, because then it's disaster. And then just have your right strategy and plan on how to brand yourself. We have developed an amazing brand. I was just featured in Texas CEO. Your listeners can read the article on my website. They did a whole feature on me and why we're different as a company, and why we're known as human capital experts. And I'm really proud that we have built this company based on people. I am a lover of people, and at AG Avant-Garde, my company, we value people, and our people have made me successful. So surrounding yourself with the right people. Nobody goes it alone, Annette. We cannot be prima donnas and go it alone. Right. I am successful because of the relationships that I have garnered around me. By myself, I'm useless. But I have the right people and the right strategy and the right plan, the right partner. And, all of that lends itself to a recipe for success.
I love that. It is so important for us to surround ourselves with the right people, but not to be afraid to invite those people in. So many of us want to just do it ourselves, and our way is the only way. And it's so important to build those relationships
and learn to trust people. And listen,
yes.
People are going to disappoint you. They're going to screw up. They're going to make mistakes. They're also going to disappoint you. They're going to backstab. And you can't just say, oh, I'm never trusting anybody again because I was screwed over this. No, you've got to trust. I have been forgiven a lot. I have been given a lot. And because of that, my heart is big. I in turn forgive and love a lot. And you also have to trust when things go wrong, and trust that you're going to try again. John Maxwell has a great book called Failing Forward. And in it, he highlights 5 of the top CEOs, the biggest CEOs, Starbucks, that failed miserably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. But then they got back up and tried again. And so failing forward is an important strategy of mine as well.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, we have to remember how many businesses or how many CEOs have failed, how many times they have failed before they had made this far. It doesn't happen overnight, maybe not even in a year or two. It takes time, but we need to have patience. It's so hard to have, so hard. So can you tell me the name of your cooking show again?
So it's on my Facebook page. Okay. It's called RC's Cocina.
Okay.
And on my website, I also have a whole section dedicated to my live feeds. I go on about 15 minutes and give out my familia recipes. yeah, it's called RC's Cocina. And I love to cook. I'm a chef, and cooking for me is my release. Other people go shopping and get massages. I love to cook. And my husband likes to eat as well as my kids. So believe me, they're like, Mom, when are you cooking? So yeah, that's my thing. But my recipes are on that. And then when I go live on my cooking show, I notify people through my Facebook page, which is at Rebecca Ann Contreras with the middle name Ann, and like and follow that, and they can get notifications when I go live.
Love it. I'm writing this all down.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tools on my website, Annette, for your listeners. I've got some workbooks that I've developed around resetting in life and recalibrating, and of course, all the podcasts with the wealth of information I've been able to share. And so I would encourage your listeners to subscribe to my website. They'll get on my automatic email blast, and they'll get notified when I give away a free material or workbooks. I just am about empowering people. It's how I lived my life. If I could literally do nothing but, walk around and empower and share my story with people, I would love that. Of course, we know we have to eat, and we don't make money doing that. So, but I love, someone did it for me many, many years ago. And I think we have to pay it forward in life, especially right now, as so many people are hurting and have the need for hope.
Yeah, you are so right. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time out to speak with all of us today. And again, everybody go to RebeccaContreras.com. The link that's down here scrolling through. I will also put it in the show notes. And if you ever want to just reach out, you forget to write all this stuff down, go back and watch it, reach out to me, reach out to her. But thank you so much for everything that you do and for the person that you are. I'm still in awe of you. And I think you're just such an amazing woman. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Annette. And God bless you, and to your listeners as well. Have a great 4th of July weekend as we celebrate here in America. God bless.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.